Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see Viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
All right, well, these guys haven't been really feeding terribly well, and I checked their temperature and they're about room temperature. I checked their heat rock, which they're never on anyway, and it's room temperature, which means that the heat rock isn't working. So I have to remove them from their cage and replace the heat rock, and I think I will place the heat rock sort of in a way that their hut is on top of it, and this way they can get warm. And I see their water dish needs to be replaced. These are Protobothrops cornutus. They're from Southeast Asia. They're pit vipers, so we must take care. Since they live together, hopefully they won't be biting one another, but they're going to be cranky. So we're just going to put the lid on. I got them when they were babies. The babies were originally from the Moscow Zoo, where they were bred. I've had them for a very long time, since 2010. So they're about, well, more or less 11 years old now. So while they're in there, I will attempt to remove the glass, which sometimes is difficult because of the weight of the stack of cages. We'll go about, I've already cut the cord to the dead heat rock. Now, unlike heat rocks of old, these only go up to about 91 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 35, 34 Celsius, something like that. And they're not like the heat rocks when I was a youngster that would get up to about 120 degrees Fahrenheit, and these are the rocks that people were complaining were cooking their stupid ball pythons because the ball pythons didn't know better to get off the rock when it got too hot, or hang out at a discreet distance. Subsequently, they got burned.
Yes, and some of them, I mean, it was no laughing matter. It actually ended up killing them.
Yeah, and of course, it's not funny, but you know, I do make light of it simply because one would think, you know, snakes, especially, you know, snakes in very, very hot regions like Africa. Normally, the ball pythons spend the vast majority of their life in the ground, away from the heat. And unfortunately, to properly keep them in captivity and such, you need to sort of, you know, give them a heat source. Excuse me for just 1 second. I will go out that door and get some substrate to pile over top of it. So they are not sitting on the heat rock, even though it's only 91 degrees. I think they might not. They might like the substrate better than the heat rock, but you know, I am going to make it this this way, and they can shift the substrate around as they wish. And we'll remove the bowl, which has got some slime in it from our fantastic water system here at the lair, which we're putting in a special expensive filtration system because it's a well water. It's a well, and the well has some issues, and the landlord didn't necessarily care too much about that, so we're going to install our own filtration system. Okay, so that's all set. You can have a closer look while I put this away. I build a mound of substrate over the top, and I'm going to get a new water dish.
There's one of our little male blue insularas. There's the other male.
Now, if you have a look at this water dish, this is one of the problems from our well, is we've got lots of scale deposits from minerals in the water from the well. This is not dirty, believe me. They get scrubbed in soap and water, they get bleached. Actually, we have a UVC, like an operating room sterilization cabinet that all the water dishes go in, so they're absolutely hospital sterilized before they go into the cages. Even though I've got, all the animals and such, have been here for a long time, and I haven't really brought anything new into the collection in a year. We still take great care in making sure that nobody has any bad karma or mojo and gives it to somebody else. We follow strict quarantine procedures. It's also a rare occasion where actually the glass gets cleaned.
Yes, I do wish we could convince our snakes to stop snotting up the glass.
Yeah, I mean, normally I wouldn't, be handling these guys, but right now it's important that it's winter time, that they have heat if they want it. I always set things up so there's a gradient in the cage so they can move about and adjust their temperature as they desire. For instance, this death adder up here.
Oh, I'm looking over at the red-spotted pit viper right now, since he's up front.
Yeah, he's a good old guy. He was born here at the lair. Unfortunately, the female I procured did not make it. As I was saying,
There you are.
this death adder, Acanthopus laevis from Irian, Papua New Guinea. You can see the heat panel on the roof, and the hotspot is there. And she's in her hut, enjoying whatever temperature she's currently at. And we can actually ascertain that if Mrs. Viperkeeper will Just give me a bit of space. She's been fed, but no telling. 90 there, and Miss Death Adder is 86. Actually, over here is 79, so she's got a bit of a gradient. She comes from a very hot place anyway. She's been fed, therefore she's somewhat subdued right now. It's always nice to get a happy Death Adder from them, even though they don't quote allure very much anymore.
Yeah, we need to make them work harder for their meals.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, we think about, you know, teasing them until they produce some tail action for us. That doesn't always work. Alright, so now that all the inside of the cage stuff has been done, we will try to safely get these guys in their cage. And if you recall from one of my recent encounters with Mr. Thumper, go ahead. That's home. Yes, go ahead. Continue. There you go. Come on. Come on, I'll take you home. There you go. You're back. See now, these are how snakes are supposed to behave. Come on, you're home. I'll plug their heat rock in next. And this way they've got a spot to go to if they so desire. Put the hook in the drink. Move this out of the way. Put the stick in the glass so it secures the glass and it doesn't rattle. I'm sorry, I don't mean to upset you. This is the wire. It's convenient having everything on wheels. Because you can easily move things about. The disadvantage, and I've been always sort of wanting to do this, is to put some plywood or plexiglass that goes almost to the floor, so when we're playing snake hockey, the snake decides that it's going to play hockey, it will slow down its ability to get under things, but I've never gotten around to that. So now it's a simple wiring job to get the heat rock back into function. When you get heat rocks out of the box, they've got a different plug on them, and I've learned from previous mistakes that it's always a good idea to plug the heat rock in first and allow them to prove that they're actually working, because I've of course taken some out of the box and been disappointed after I've gone through all this trouble getting it installed in the cage. You just might throw this plug out. These plugs have been around for a long time. And I've got a spare plug. If you'll excuse me, I'll be back in just a moment. So yeah, I've gone through all this and installed in a cage and found that the heat rock was not working, which was very disappointing and irritating.
And of course now they both have to check out their homes to make sure nothing's changed too much.
Now, one other thing that I've done over the years is with these are very old connectors. That's why the plastic is somewhat brittle. Is I try to color code things so when I see things plugged into a power strip, I can tell which is a light and which is heat. I also label the power strip as for light and heat, which does make it a little bit easier to figure out where things are plugged in and where things aren't. If I own this place, I would have made a lot of modifications and such to make things all the more user-friendly, but since we don't, I'm not putting a lot into it as far as dollars, which are actually fairly tight. So now, since this is alternating current, technically, since this house is really not wired correctly anyway, I'm not going to even pay much attention to which side would be hot and which would be neutral. I'm just going to connect it up. It really doesn't matter so much with alternating current because it changes polarity from plus to minus at 60 times per second, and that's why they call it 60 hertz. And if you touch a live wire, it hurts in a different way. Okay, so now we get to play these fun game with wire. And we'll see if we can get that pinned underneath that screw and get everything all plugged in. Come on. Cooperate. Nothing cooperates here. The only thing that really cooperates is Mrs. Viperkeeper. All the snakes, all the hardware, everything just gives me all sorts of headaches. Miss Arutu is derping because she has a full tummy and she's sleeping it off. She had a big mouse just an hour or two ago. We have some of the derpiest snakes on the planet, I think.
They just feel so comfortable around us that they don't care what they look like.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, it's family. They can see me derping away. It doesn't matter. Come on.
And she sure is pretty.
Yeah, she is. She came from my friends Jim and Kristen at the Kentucky Reptile Zoo, along with her brother. She is better known as the Misguided Missile. Thanks to Delta's terrible animal care on the ramps at the cargo terminal, she and her brother were left out in the heat in the summer. And they were both alive when they got here, but the male passed a day or so later from heat stroke, and she's been permanently altered. Her guidance system for her strikes is way off, which actually makes her even more dangerous than normal.
Why?
Because her strikes are sort of like a baseball pitcher's screwball. It doesn't go in a straight line. It sort of corkscrews. So she is particularly tricky to feed.
Well, even just opening the cage, sometimes you get a very wild swing in your direction.
Yes.
Keeps it very exciting.
Yes, and of course Bothrops bites are not to be trifled with. They're very serious envenomations. There's actually one fatality here in the U.S. From an Naruto bite. The venomous snake had some accomplices, and that was some irresponsible and pig-headed physicians at a hospital that undertreated her with crofab and refused to listen to the people who knew what to do and how it should be treated and give her the right antivenom. And unfortunately, she passed before she could be given the right antivenom. So that's a sad story that I was involved with a bit personally. Just is the status of emergency room physicians' ability to treat snake bite here in the United States. Some of my friends that are actual venom docs are making good strides. There was a position paper put out, a procedure paper sort of put out by the College of Emergency Room Physicians, and it was written by one of my venom doc friends, and it dictates the proper procedures and what protocols to follow for North American snake bites. So that was a big step forward. That was just amazing. I couldn't believe that actually happened. That was like 50 years in the making. It finally happened. So very pleased to see that. So we're done here. We're going to have some dinner after I clean this up a little bit and call it a day.